Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel, and in this video I'll be going over how to install Steam, how to get your Steam applications working, and all that stuff. In the last video we went over Wine and Lutris, so if you guys are, let's say, trying to run a certain Windows application, or if you're trying to, let's say, play your Epic games or your Origin games or your Ubisoft games you bought from those storefronts, then that video is for you. It'll be in the info card below, or maybe I should link it in the pinned comment down below also. So they'll be there if you guys want to check it out. So we're gonna go to my desktop and we're gonna go and install Steam. Now, yes, you can do this all through the GUI, but we're not gonna do this through the GUI. We're gonna do this through the terminal because you guys should learn how this stuff works. Because if you have an internet connection and a browser and you can have access to a terminal like this, you can fix anything. So yeah, take notes, make sure to take notes on what I'm doing, because, well, it's pretty useful if you can memorize these commands and what they do. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna type in a command and I'm gonna go and explain what it does, and then you guys can then install everything yourself without having to watch my channel, which is gonna be good. So anyway, sudo super user do, equivalent of right click an application in Windows and run as administrator. You're running this as the highest user in your system. Apt is a package manager. Think of it as a storefront. Think of it like the Apple Store, the iOS Store, or the Google Play Store. Think of it like that. Install, self-explanatory, and then the package name, which is Steam. Now, I'm on Pop! OS. This is a Debian-based distribution, which, well, it's built off of Ubuntu, and Ubuntu is built off of Debian. So, how do you do it on something, let's say, like Fedora? So, Fedora-based distributions, like Red Hat, Fedora, Bazite. How do you install something on those systems? Well, you do sudo, not sudo, dnf install. I can't type apparently. Install Steam. That's all you do. Now, if you're on an Arch-based distribution, so let's say Endeavor or distributions like that, Garuda, stuff like that. Garuda already has Steam pre-installed, but if you're on an Arch-based distribution, you can do sudo pacman -S Steam, and that's all you do. Now, if you want to learn more about these commands, you can do man and then apt, DNF, pacman, all that stuff, and this will bring up a manual. So in the last video I went over this also. It will tell you everything you need to know about these commands, what they do, how to use them, and all that stuff. So if I type in a command and you want to learn more about it, you can just do that. I don't know if there's a man page for sudo. There probably is. Yeah, there is. There's probably a lot of stuff here that I don't even know about yet. So yeah, so you can, of course, exit out of the man pages by pressing Q. And there we go. Now we can launch Steam with just two ways. We can do Steam like this and launch it through the terminal. However, this will use a terminal up. The terminal will just stay open. As soon as you close the terminal, it will kill Steam. So you could do it like that, or you can also use the GUI. If you go and bring up a GUI and you type in Steam, it will bring up Steam, or if you want to go to your applications or whatever. So here we are inside Steam. Now there is one thing that you need to do. After you sign in and you do all that stuff, you need to do one more thing, because once you install Steam, all of your games, there will be games missing. There will be games you can't run. Well, I guess the games will show up, but you can't install them or anything. They'll be grayed out. There's something that you need to do, and that is you need to enable compatibility. So remember in the last video how I mentioned about Wine and how Wine works and how it translates Windows language to Linux language? Yeah, same thing here. We use something on Steam called Proton. Now, Proton is a fork of Wine. Nobody owns anything on Linux. Remember that? Remember how I said it's all open source. You can make changes to whatever you want. Same thing here. Same thing here. You can, pretty much Wine is the base layer for Proton, and then Proton makes improvements and changes to Wine. It's a fork of Wine. So we're gonna go to settings. Once you bring up settings, you need to go down to compatibility. Click on compatibility and enable Steam Play for all other titles. Make sure you click this because you need this enabled. Once you do that, it will restart Steam and it will start installing Proton. Now, how do you know which games run best, which versions of Proton? Because there's multiple versions of Proton. If you go to compatibility, Actually, I'm going to go to a different game. I guess I'll go to Helldivers instead. If you go to compatibility, there's many different versions of Proton here. Which one do you pick for the best performance? I generally run experimental. Experimental works fine. You get the latest changes and improvements. But it can have some issues too. There might be things that break and stuff like that. But generally, I've had no problems with experimental. So there is a neat site you can go to. Can I like go down a workspace? Thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna bring up my browser. And there is a useful site. So it's called Proton DB. Of course, link in the pinned comment down below if you guys want to check this out. This is a site that shows everything when it comes to getting your games running and like which games are supported. So let's say you want to run Halo. Halo I know already works. All the like Halo MCC and Halo Infinite does work on Linux. But just to like see if people have fixes, like let's say you're having an issue and some people might have another issue. So let's go to Halo Infinite. So people have where it's working right out of the box on the Steam Deck, and then some people are having, let's go to the PC right here, and some people are having to enter in launch options. So some people may have an issue and you might need to enter some launch options into right here into this box. And some people, they find fixes and you just Control-C, Control-V it in this launch options right here, and the game just works better or just works. So not that hard, pretty easy. Now most games you don't need to do this at all. Most games you don't at all need to really go to Proton. If a single player game generally just works out of the box, for multiplayer games that's where I would start searching, like, you know, Helldivers, right? Helldivers works in the out of the box. So like right here, first one, second one, there's some people saying, hey, maybe run this, use this, switch to experimental. It'll tell you what version of Proton they're running. Now you may see this Proton, this GE-Proton. You know how there's forks and how Linux is a tree and there's multiple different, you know, anybody can do any changes? Well, guess what? There's Wine, and then there's Proton, and then there's Proton GE, which we'll actually be installing in this video. So in the link down below in the pinned comment, we're going to go to Proton GE, and we're going to go to the GitHub repository. Going to go to releases right here, or I guess I'll link it to the actual like GitHub right here. So like I mentioned in the last, I think it was the first video, I showed you guys how to read GitHubs and how it works. This is all the stuff for how to install it and all the stuff that you need to know about it. Don't worry, we're going to go over it in this video on how to install it. It's pretty easy. So you go here to the latest releases, which is 3 hours ago. I should maybe download this. There's actually a lot of improvements. Yeah, I'm going to have to download that. Okay, so once it's done downloading, I decided to download the latest version because it has a lot of improvements and fixes and stuff that I just want. Okay, so there's a few things you need to do. We're going to go and actually exit out of Steam. So just go here and exit out of Steam because we're going to install Proton GE, which is great. So I love Proton GE. It makes my performance go burr. So anyway, there's a few commands that you guys need to take note of and need to learn. Firstly, I'm going to teach you how to list your files. So you know how you have your file manager, right? Which I'm just going to bring up actually down here. I'm going to bring up my file manager. You know how your file manager, right? You got all this stuff, all your files and stuff. Well, you can actually do everything your file manager does in the terminal. So take notes. We're going to do ls. This lists everything. ls stands for list. Lists everything. Now, you see, we need to actually go and copy. So in our downloads folder, we need to copy the Proton GE folder, the file, sorry, the .gz file, and we need to copy that to our Steam directory. But you see, you don't see a Steam directory here. Where is Steam? Well, if you do an ls and do a flag, which is a dash stands for a flag, LA, hit enter, it will list everything, like everything. Don't worry about all this information here, right here. Don't worry about that. That will come into future videos down the line. Don't worry about any of this. All you need to know is you can look and you can see Steam right here. and it's a dot. So when you have a dot in front of a file, that's a hidden file, meaning that the file will not show unless you turn on hidden files in your file manager, or if you do an ls-la. Of course, like earlier, if you want to learn more about ls, you just do man ls, and there we go. See, a for all, and then l is list, like in a list format, long list format. So right there. So I'm pretty sure if you just do ls-a, it will just do it like this, but not in a list format. It'll just show everything that's hidden also. So we need to go into the .steam directory. So how do you do that? cd, change our directory, and then the name of the directory, steam. Hit enter. Now you notice how we had the tilde here and it changed to a tilde \steam. Well, you can tell where you are in your operating system by just looking here. This tilde is our home folder. So your home folder, if I go back to my file manager, this is your home folder. This is your users directory. So remember in Windows how you got your, let's actually go to a prefix quickly. Games prefix. So you know how in the Windows drive you have these files and you have users and you have your user and you have these files right here, like your downloads, pictures, and that stuff? Exactly the same thing, but on Linux. So let's go back to our file manager. We are in Steam, the .steam directory. Go ls, and we want to cd into the Steam directory right here. So cd, steam, ls again. Now, you'll see all these files right here. Now, we need to make a directory. We need to make a folder. This is the equivalent of right-clicking a folder in Linux, in like Windows, your file manager, or whatever, and saying, I want to create a new folder. So what we're going to do to create a new folder is do mkdir for make directory. And we're going to call it compatibilitytools.d. So something that I should mention, you see this .d here? .d means configuration files. If you ever go into the system files of Linux and you see a .d, if you don't know what you're doing, don't touch them. Don't touch them at all. But, you know, we're in the Steam directory. We can touch it. Don't worry. If you break Steam, you can just reinstall it, right? So we're going to cd into the new folder. Now, after you make the new directory, you'll have to do an ls again to list the files, and then compatibilitytools.d will show up there. So we're going to cd into the compatibilitytools.d, and we're doing ls. Now, I have a few versions of Proton installed, so I have Proton GE 8-27, tar.gz. I have a few of them. So what we're going to do is we're going to move the file from our downloads to here. How do we move files? Well, it's actually pretty easy. So you remember how we have this tilde and this \, which stands for the home directory? Yeah, we can use that to our advantage. So mv, which stands for move. Now, of course, you can just do man mv to know more about like the move command. So if you guys want to do that, you can. So take notes. Make sure to put this in like like a notebook or whatever note-taking software. I use Obsidian. I might make a video on that later. But this is all you do. mv, and you're going to put in a tilde and a \. If you hit tab twice, it will bring up all the folders in said directory. So we want to go to downloads. There we go. Double tab again. No, I don't want to actually show 114 possibilities. So you could double tab and it will show everything in that directory. So we know it's GE. If we hit tab, it will autocomplete. So this is how you can go quicker in a terminal. This is how people like move around their desktop, like in their OS quicker in a terminal than on the actual like GUI itself. Now, this is inefficient for moving multiple files. I don't like moving multiple files using the mv command or viewing images and that stuff. I don't like doing that through the terminal. The GUI is there for a reason. It's there to make your life easier, not harder. But if you know how to do this, let's say you need to move a system file to a certain place on your system to make it work again. Well, there you go. Now you know what the mv command does. So mv, we did mv. And then this is the directory. This is what we want to copy. This is what we want to move. We can, of course, copy. The cp command is pretty similar, actually. It's just cp for copy if you want to copy it. and then there's MV. CP and MV are very similar for syntax. So CP, copy, kind of exactly the same as how MV works for remove. So for at least the syntax, for like typing it out and stuff. So now we need to, now we know, we selected our file, we now know what file we want to move. Now we need to tell move where to move it to. Now we could just do, you know, this and then .steam and then, you know, slash steam and then slash compatibility tools.d. We can do that, but that's inefficient. That takes time. You see, we want to be efficient Linux users. So instead of doing all that, if you put a dot, it will copy it to the current directory you're in, which is currently home.steam steam compatibility tools.d, right? Hit enter, do an ls. Oh, look, GE Proton 9-24 is here. Now we need to extract this package right here. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to do tar xfv. X is for extract and FV for force and then V for verbose. And then G Proton 9, and we're going to just auto tab till we get it all. There we go. And then after you do that, you hit enter. And it will look like you're hacking the NSA, but you're not. Don't worry. You're just extracting all the files. Do an ls again, and there we go. GE Proton 9-24 is now a directory. You can actually cd into the Proton GE folder. Oh, 9-24. There we go. You can actually cd into this directory. Now you can see how it's color coded. You've probably noticed these color codes, right? Blue, green, all that stuff, white, and all that stuff. Blue stands for a directory. Of course, depends on your Linux distro, but if you just looking at it, you guys will figure it out. You guys will figure it out. I have confidence that you guys will figure out which color code means what for your Linux distro, for your terminal that you're in. So you're here now. Let's say we want to go back to our home directory right here. We could. So there's the cd command, right? And we can go back a directory by just doing ... right? There we go. We're in our compatibility tools. Now, if you want to go back to directories, you could just do cd ... /.. right? But this is inefficient, right? We want to go and we want to do this quickly. We want to go back to our home folder. Let's say you're exploring your Linux system through the terminal and you want to go back to your home folder. You're lost. You don't know where to go. This is all you do. You do cd, you hit enter, and there we go. We're in our home folder right now. Let's do an ls. There we go. There's everything right here. Pretty easy, not that hard actually. Very, very easy. So anyway, after you do that, you can now launch Steam. So I'm going to actually launch it with key bindings, which if you're on Pop! OS or Cosmic, I'll show you guys how to configure that right now. Go to settings, go to your keyboard, scroll down till you see view and customize shortcuts. Click on that, scroll to the bottom. Custom shortcuts are right here. So if you're on Cosmic or if you're on Pop! OS's GNOME, I call it GNOME. I know it's GNOME. It's pronounced GNOME. I know that's what it is, but I just say GNOME. Anyway, click on, you can go and add a custom shortcut. This is mine. I named it Steam. The command is Steam. So remember how I mentioned commands and how you can open applications from your terminal? You can open Steam from your terminal, but you can also add it as a command. So right here, my shortcut, Shift Super S. The super key is your Windows key. If you ever see super in Linux, it means the Windows key. So that's it. That's all we did. All we need to do is launch Steam. There we go. Logging in. Now, if we go to my library right here, so we go to Helldivers, we go to properties, we're going to go to compatibility. It's on Proton Experimental. If you scroll down, you'll see Proton GE 9-24. Now, it can vary. Sometimes I've had better performance on experimental. Sometimes I have had better performance on an older version of Proton, like 8.0 or 7.0. It can vary. Make sure to check ProtonDB and see what people say on what works the best. Sometimes you might have to switch versions of Proton. Close the game, choose a different version of Proton. Sometimes, very rare, it's generally like a really new game, like Monster Hunter Wilds beta. I've had to change a few Proton versions to figure out which one gives the best performance. Also, older versions of Proton don't support certain features like frame gen, FSR, and stuff like that. So you do want to run the latest version because you get FSR, you get frame gen, you get all that stuff. So let us go and run Helldivers 2. Now, when you launch the game for the first time, it will have to process Vulkan shaders. This can take a minute, and generally it's the first time when running a game, so it can take a little bit to configure the shaders and stuff like that. So I guess just go get a coffee, get some water, do whatever, and then come back. And here we are in Helldivers. As you can see, it works. When you first launch a game, it might take a little bit because it has to process the shader cache. Keep in mind it's translating Windows language to Linux language. But after that, it generally launches very, very, very quickly. So after an update, after all that stuff, generally you have to reprocess your shader cache. It takes a little bit, just grab some water, wait a little bit, and then it launches. It doesn't take too terribly long. But yeah, Helldivers works completely fine, surprisingly. It actually has a rootkit anti-cheat, but thanks to Proton, I don't have to worry about there being vulnerabilities for attackers to write stuff to my motherboard. Anyway, but yeah, it works completely fine, and it works pretty dang well. Now, another thing I'll show you. Now, this is every Steam game. Now, I'm going to just quit the game, actually. This is every Steam game. Every Steam game just works. But what if you don't have a Steam game? What if you have a game that's installed and you just want to, like, you have it downloaded, it's in a games directory, let's say it's right here, and let's say you have a copy, like a CD copy of Star Wars Battlefront 2 or Transformers Fall of Cybertron or whatever, right? We're going to use the example of Cheat Engine, actually, as our example. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually click add a game, add a non-Steam game. And now from here, you can add, of course, Discord and all that stuff, but we're going to add Cheat Engine, right? Click add select programs. It will be in your Steam library. Now, as you know, we already got this working with Lutris, so we don't need to do this. I do prefer Lutris for getting applications running that are like an installation like Cheat Engine and stuff like that. But if it's just an application I run and it's just in the exe and I don't need to install anything or run an installer, then I generally use Proton because it's a lot quicker and a lot more efficient. Go to properties, go to compatibility, and force a certain runtime tool. Now, we're going to go use Proton GE. You don't have to, but that's what I'm going to be using. So we're going to launch it. And it should launch in a second. Nope. There we go. There's Cheat Engine right here. Pretty easy. Pretty, like, not that hard at all. Now, we're going to move the non-Steam game from the library because we don't need that. Now, you may be wondering, saves. How do I access saves? How do I do all of that stuff? Well, you see, you know how we have the prefixes in the last video? Last video you guys should watch because I explained what prefixes are and what that does. Remember prefixes in the last video? Yeah, so it's the same thing here. So if we go and browse local files, there it is. In your Steam apps directory, so remember the .steam and the .steam folder, there was Steam apps in there. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but there's Steam apps. Exactly the same as here. So right here is your common, and right here is all this stuff for all your games. This is where all your game files are stored. So if you're modding a game, all your mods would go into the game. So let's say I was modding Star Wars Battlefront 2, where is it, actually? Maybe I don't have it installed. Dark Souls Remaster, if you're going to move mods, you're going to put it in here. Elden Ring, so I have the Seamless Co-op mod, not installed yet, but you'd put it in here, right? That's where you'd mod your games. So, where is all your prefixes stored? Well, they're all stored right here on Compact Data. Now, you may be going, whoa, which prefix is which? Which one is Elden Ring? Well, it's pretty simple to find that out. You go to Steam, you go to your store page, and you see those numbers up there, 1245, 620. I think I did that right, said that right, because I'm just a little bit dyslexic. Anyway, so 12, we need to find 12. 45, 620, that looks right, actually. Oh, not where I want to go, 12. Yep, 20, perfect. Okay, cool. So go back to our file manager, click in this, click in the prefix, drive C. There we go. There's your prefix for Elden Ring. We're gonna actually go into the users. It'll be Steam user, app data. I think it's in roaming. There it is. Yep, Elden Ring. See, I found it. That's all you need to do to find your prefix for your saves and all that stuff. So yeah, not that hard to find the prefix. And it's the same with applications you run in Proton. It will create a new prefix for that application. So another way you could do it, which would be a lot more efficient, which is why I use the GUI for this, for finding my applications. I go to compact data and I use the search. So if I wanted to find Elden Ring, there we go. It'll bring up everything for prefixes. So look, there's the prefixes right here. It tells you all the different prefixes right here if you're using this type of file manager. But yeah, pretty easy, pretty simple. It's a lot easier than using Lutris, in my opinion. Lutris isn't that hard, but this is a lot easier for newbies to use. So anyway, that's pretty much everything you need to know about getting games running on Linux. Yeah, I hope you guys found the video helpful. If you did, please like the button down below. Please subscribe if you're new around here, and I'll see you guys in the next video.